Okay, we're looking at a figure 4 deadfall trap. In this case, I have a binder here simulating a large flat rock, which is what you'd want to use when in the field, but since we're inside, we're just going to use the binder. These are sticks that I did get out from the desert, made from a Palo Verde tree, and I've just kind of sanded them and cut them into shape, and then put some wood varnish on there just to weather protect them a little bit. So you can carry those around in your kit with you if you wanted. You could fashion them in the field, but that takes quite a while to do, so it's easier if you just have them with you. Now you can see why it's called a figure 4. It's in the shape of a 4. We've got 3 sticks. We've got our base stick, and we've got our support stick, which is the actual only stick touching the deadfall weight. And we have our trigger stick, which is what holds the bait and what the animal hits to trigger the trap. Now, what you would typically want to do is take a little piece of bait. We'll use a rock for this example. You would either skewer it on the end, and this is a pointed stick, or I actually like the idea of rubber banding it to the end so that the animal can smell it and see it, but it can't even really eat it without pulling it off the stick first, because you want it to pull and tug at the stick in order to trigger the device. You also need to make sure that you put the bait on the stick first before setting the trap, as it's almost impossible to put it on there once the trap is set without triggering it. Now for the bait, keep in mind that the idea is to attract the animal and get them to trigger the device. It's not to provide them with food to sit there and eat. So you want them to be able to smell it and see it, but they shouldn't be able to easily nibble on it. Another thing you can do is you can lay the bait under the trigger stick, perhaps under some rocks, so that it would need to get under here and root around. You have this little fake dove as an example. So it's trying to get under there, and that trigger stick's kind of in the way, and it's trying to peck and pull and dig, and it's probably going to accidentally just knock that, or even intentionally push it out of the way so it can get at the food. It's not going to know that's going to trigger the trap. So what I would probably do with the bait, I would skewer a piece on or tie it on with the rubber band. Make sure to keep a rubber band tied around these sticks when you're carrying them around. It'll keep them together, and then you'll have it to use later. I would tie the bait to the stick, and I would put the bait underneath it, under some rocks, and then I'd put a small trail of morsels, leading kind of into the trap from various directions. Very small pieces, just to increase the chances that an animal is going to find its way into the trap. Now, what this thing has a tendency to do is rotate when this trigger stick is pushed. Due to the fact that there's a lot of tension and pressure on this, these sticks are just kind of resting in place, but they are very secure because they're all notched in and the pressure and friction's holding them in place. So even when you push on the stick, it has a tendency to just turn and not just pop out. So one thing you can do is take some rocks. You got to be careful how you do this, and just kind of prop them up right here at the very base of the trigger stick. It's not really going to hinder the trap at all, but it's going to prevent this from rotating as the animal pushes the stick, because it could in theory push it all the way out and this whole thing would just rotate, and it might not be centered by the time it falls. It'll eventually collapse anyways. But if you wedge a couple rocks in between that base, it'll prevent it from rotating. And then the only possible thing that can happen is this trigger stick to just pop out and the trap will be set. So let's try to trigger it here. So the animal's rooting around, it's trying to pull on this. And that's ideally what should happen. These sticks should all pop outside of the trap. There's a rare occasion where if you set it wrong, your base stick will fall forward and it'll catch. Now probably all it'll do is just go like this and bounce and then fall anyways. But it might be enough when it falls to slow the trap down and allow the animal to run out when it sees everything collapsing. It'll go like that. So you want to try to make sure when you set it that that base stick is outside of the edge of the deadfall weight so that it can't just fall in and stop it. Now we can try to set this again here. It can be tricky. Take a few attempts, but let's see if we can do it. So technically that should be set. You don't have to actually set the weight on top of it first. You can set the trap and then bring the weight on top. It's not always that simple, but let's see. Try it again. Put our trigger in. Well, I think somebody's home, so I'm going to end this video, but thanks for watching.